Hey everyone, ready to get a little bit smarter today.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into 12 signs of intelligence, the kind you just can't fake.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taking this from a text called 12 Signs of High Intelligence You Cannot Fake. And I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah.
Before we even jump into that, though, I'm kind of curious, like when we even say intelligence, what are we even really talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like one of those things that's kind of hard to put their finger on.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, a lot of people, when they think of intelligence, they immediately think of like IQ, right? Right.
Yeah.
But it really is so much more than that. It's got those intellectual components, but it also includes emotional intelligence and even some behavioral aspects too.
Right, it's like the whole package deal.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I think makes these 12 signs so interesting. They really touch on all those different dimensions.
Okay, so let's dive into those signs then. The first one on the list is insatiable curiosity. And I feel like that's got to be like the foundation to even be able to learn, right?
Absolutely. It's that constant drive to learn, to want to explore new things,
Mhm.
ask questions. Like I think about little kids, like they're natural learners, always asking why and why and
Right.
why.
And the whys never stop.
Never stop. And so intelligent people really, they never lose that childlike curiosity.
It's funny because I can totally relate to that. I remember, like, as a kid, going to the library
Mm.
and just like grabbing random books off the shelf. I didn't care what it was about. I just wanted to know what was in it.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever knowledge I could gain, that was exciting to me.
And that's a perfect example of how this sign manifests, right?
Yeah.
It's not about having all the answers. It's about always wanting more.
Always wanting more, yeah. So keeping with that theme of wanting more and learning and exploring, the next sign on the list is open-mindedness. And this one feels like it has to go hand in hand with that curiosity. Because you can be curious,
Right.
but if you're not open to what you find, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's fundamental to intellectual growth because, if we're not open to new information and we're stuck in our old ways of thinking,
Mhm.
then we're never going to grow and evolve as people, right?
Right, and there's that confirmation bias that always creeps in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Intelligent people are very aware of that and they actively work to overcome it because confirmation bias is just us seeking information that already confirms our beliefs
Hmm.
and then we're not really growing.
Right, so it's not just like blindly believing anything anyone says. It's about being open to hearing what they have to say
Right.
and then figuring out where you stand on it.
Exactly.
Okay, so this next one seems a little bit contradictory, and that's thoughtful silence.
Mm.
Because when you think about intelligence, you often think about people who can, like, speak well, quickly, are witty.
Yes.
But thoughtful silence is not about being, like, shy or withdrawn. It's about taking time to process.
Exactly. It's the quality over quantity when it comes to communication.
Well, there's that saying, right?
Yeah.
Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
That's right.
But of course, there's got to be that balance,
Yeah.
right?
And this is where emotional intelligence comes in, right? So it's
Yeah.
not enough to just be able to, process information
Right.
and reflect internally. We also need to be able to understand how and when to communicate effectively with others.
Okay, so let's shift gears then a little bit into that emotional intelligence. I mean, we're so quick to think of intelligence as just the things we know and how quickly we can solve problems.
Mhm.
But emotional intelligence is like this whole nother thing.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a huge part of intelligence.
And it's about being able to recognize emotions in yourself and in others.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's dive into that a little bit. The first sign within emotional intelligence is self-control.
This is so important because intelligent people have the ability to regulate their emotions, especially during challenging situations, right?
Right.
They don't let their feelings kind of hijack their decision making.
Oh, this makes me think about that marshmallow test. Have you heard about that?
Oh, yeah.
You have a kid a marshmallow and say, hey, if you don't eat this right now,
Right.
I'll give you another one later. And it's all about delayed gratification.
Exactly.
And the kids who were able to wait, they ended up having better outcomes later in life.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-control is key.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so the next sign in emotional intelligence is one that I think a lot of us struggle with, and that is willingness to acknowledge faults. I mean, no one likes to admit they're wrong.
No, it's not easy, and it's definitely not fun, but it's something that intelligent people are able to do.
Mhm.
And this is where I think growth mindset comes into play. Carol Dweck talks a lot about this
Mhm.
and how important it is to see mistakes not as failures,
Hmm.
but as opportunities to learn and grow. So instead of getting defensive or trying to cover up our mistakes,
Right.
we embrace them as part of the process.
Yeah. Which I imagine would make you a better learner long term.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if you're never admitting you made a mistake,
Right.
we
Yeah.
can't get any better.
You just keep making the same one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so speaking of making mistakes, I feel like adaptability would help you there.
Yes.
If you're able to adapt to new situations, you
Right.
can learn from your mistakes, move on, and, figure it out.
It's all about being able to adjust to those changing circumstances.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches, come out stronger on the other side.
Right.
Life throws a lot at us, and so intelligent people are able to navigate those challenges successfully.
There's that quote, right? It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change.
That's it. I love that quote.
Okay, so this next one is kind of interesting to me, and that is a knack for wit.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find interesting about it is it almost connects intelligence with a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's not just about being able to tell a good joke. It's about, like you said, having a sense of humor and being able to make those quick connections and see the humor in everyday situations.
And sometimes that humor is what gets you through a lot of tough stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this next one I'm excited to talk about, and it's creativity. Feels like this is one of the most powerful signs of intelligence because you're creating something new.
Yeah, it's like we're starting to see all these different aspects of intelligence kind of weave together here, right? Because creativity requires intellectual curiosity, open-mindedness, emotional intelligence, even a touch of wit, right? It's about thinking outside the box, coming up with these innovative solutions, expressing ourselves in unique and meaningful ways.
And it's not just artistic creativity either.
No, not at all.
You can be creative in how you solve problems,
Absolutely.
just in how you approach any situation, really.
Exactly. It's really thinking differently about things, challenging the status quo, and coming up with new and interesting solutions.
And that kind of ties in with the adaptability too, right?
Yes.
Because if you can think outside the box and be creative, you're more adaptable to change.
Absolutely. You know, those adaptable people, they're often highly creative because they're able to think on their feet,
Right.
come up with those innovative solutions when faced with unexpected challenges.
Right. And that's a huge part of intelligence, right? Being able to deal with whatever is thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next one kind of seems to go against everything that we just talked about, like all that connecting and stuff. And it's preference for solitude. So how does that work?
So it's not that intelligent people are antisocial or anything. They
Yeah.
just recognize the value of solitude. You know, they use that time to recharge, to reflect, process their thoughts and experiences.
It's almost like they're getting energy from being by themselves, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's about having that self-awareness and knowing what they need to thrive.
And honoring that.
Honoring that, yes.
Okay, so we are on our last sign. And this one I think is really important when we talk about intelligence, and that is sensitivity to others' feelings.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is where that emotional intelligence really shines.
Yeah. Intelligent people are definitely in tune with the emotions of others, you know? They're good listeners. Yeah, they can really understand and respond to those emotions in a way that is sensitive and compassionate.
So you can be super smart,
Yeah.
but if you can't deal with other people, what good is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's about understanding that our interactions with others
Right.
are just as important as our intellectual pursuits.
So now we've talked about these 12 signs, and it sounds really interesting, like in theory. But what does this actually look like in real life? Can you give us some examples of how these signs might show up?
I'd love to. I think we should dive deeper into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's try and make this a little more tangible.
Yeah, like how do we actually see these signs play out?
Right, like in the real world.
Yeah.
So I had a colleague once, and he was a brilliant software engineer, like top of his class, but he was also incredibly humble.
Oh, nice.
And he was always willing to acknowledge if he didn't know something. So instead of getting all defensive, he would say, hey, that's a great question. Let's figure this out together.
I love that.
And it just made him such a pleasure to work with because it never felt like, you know, a competition or anything. It was a
Right.
true collaboration.
Yeah, it's like admitting what you don't know makes you a better learner and collaborator.
Exactly.
And it makes me think about how important emotional intelligence is in a work setting. It's not enough to just have the skills, right?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, think about, you know, a manager who's leading a team through a tough time, like a big transition or something. And they're probably feeling the pressure themselves.
Oh, yeah.
But the good ones, they don't let that affect how they treat their team. They take the time to actually listen to their team's concerns,
Mhm.
acknowledge those anxieties, and really create that supportive environment.
So it's like leading with empathy.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about work stuff, but how about personal relationships? Can these signs help us there too?
Yep, absolutely. Imagine you're having a disagreement with your partner. Right.
Mm-hmm. Happens all the time.
If you go into that conversation with an open mind,
Mm.
you're more likely to actually listen to their side,
Yeah.
understand where they're coming from, and hopefully find some common ground.
It's so easy to just get defensive,
Right.
especially with someone you're close with.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that thoughtful silence could really come in handy.
Oh, absolutely. Instead of just firing back a response, try taking a pause and really listen to what they're saying.
Right.
It can totally change the whole tone of the conversation.
Yeah, it shows that you're actually trying to understand. Okay, so these signs can help us in all these different parts of our lives. But are there any downsides to, like, focusing on them too much?
That's a good question. I think it's important to remember that these signs shouldn't be used to judge someone's intelligence, right?
Right.
We all express these things differently,
Hmm.
and someone might be really strong in one area, but not so much in another.
So it's not about putting people in boxes.
No, not at all.
It's more about appreciating all the different ways that intelligence can show up.
Exact.
Plus, these are just 12 signs, right? There are probably tons of other things that make up a person's intelligence.
Right. Think about musical intelligence or spatial reasoning. Those are all important too.
It's like that saying, everyone is a genius.
Yeah.
But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid.
Exactly.
So we need to be careful not to limit how we view intelligence, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But if we want to get better at these 12 signs, can we? Like, can we actually make ourselves more intelligent?
Okay, so that's a question that people have been debating forever.
Yeah.
And while there's no quick fix to suddenly boost your IQ,
Right.
the good news is that our brains are always changing. They're super adaptable.
Oh, that's good to know.
Even as adults,
Mm-hmm.
we can still learn new things and get better at stuff.
So it's not like we're stuck with whatever we're born with.
Nope, not at all.
I like that.
So it's all about having that growth mindset, that belief that we can always get better,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually putting in the work to do it.
Like, what kinds of things can we do?
Well, it could be anything, really. Learning a new language, taking up a new hobby, even just being more present in your daily life.
So it's all about keeping our brains active.
Yeah, exactly. Keep learning, keep growing.
It sounds like the key takeaway here is that intelligence isn't about being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's about always trying to get better.
Absolutely.
And I feel like these 12 signs can help us do that.
I agree. They can be like little reminders along the way to help us keep growing and learning.
Yeah, they're like those little nudges to remind us that there's always more to learn, more to grow.
Exactly. And that we all have that potential within us.
So before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to add about, these signs or intelligence in general or anything really?
I think the biggest thing I want to leave everyone with is that intelligence really is a journey, not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get caught up in trying to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
It's more about embracing that growth mindset, being curious, and always trying to learn new things.
Yeah, it's like that love of learning is more important than what you already know.
Yeah, exactly. So keep that curiosity alive.
And never stop asking why.
That's right. Never stop asking why.
Okay, so that's it for our deep dive into the 12 signs of intelligence. I feel like I learned a lot today. Hopefully you did too.
I did. Yeah.
Now we want to hear from you. Which of these signs do you see in yourself? Or maybe someone you know?
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing to keep that brain power growing?
Yeah, let us know. We always love hearing from you. Until then, keep those minds sharp.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.